I'm complete with that.
There's one comment you made about your brother about the things he could drive you crazy, and I got to tell you, let him drive you crazy. I miss that.
Yeah. He's good at it. He's so good. He's so good at it.
He knows you better than anyone, so he knows the buttons.
He does. He does. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I see you, brother. I see you. You know, I'm the youngest. My grandmother. I'm the oldest of my siblings, but I'm the youngest grandson from my father's side. So, my grandmother. 2 years ago, I lost her, and I when you started talking about your brother, I started thinking about my brother, but I was also thinking about losing my grandmother, and I just want you to know that what I want for men to have a space that we get to like let these emotions out. Like you talk about going downstairs and having a 3-hour session. I've had those moments, and sometimes it's hard to even try and describe it to someone, right? Like it's hard to describe it. It's hard to describe it. It's kind of like when I tell teenagers in their work, I'm like, look, when you have that first heartbreak, it's hard to describe it.
Yeah.
There's no Band-Aid for it. You almost have to just like allow me as a mentor or the friends or your brothers to like just hold space with you and just know that sometimes you got to feel it. And so I appreciate you because what you I think what you allow us to do is to know that we're human.
Yeah.
and we feel. Welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast. My name is Ashanti Branch, and I'm really glad you've joined us. Today's guest is Jonathan DeYoe. As you can see, I'm on location today. I am here down the hill from the Alameda County Juvenile Detention Center. We just did a workshop there that we're a part of this intercession this week. And as you can imagine, our young people who are incarcerated, who are locked up, who are going through whatever they're going through, are also navigating their own masks. But it's always a great opportunity to try and make a space for them to be seen and heard. Today's conversation with Jonathan DeYoe, he's going to be seen and heard. He's going to speak about the death of his brother. And as you know, I've talked on this podcast a lot about my brother and how his health is deteriorating. And I've been really feeling even more saddened lately as I see him and he's just dwindling away. And my heart breaks. And as Jonathan spoke about his brother, it took everything in me to keep it together because I really love my brother too. And I feel the worry and the pain and the sadness of just watching him slowly fade away. And so as you can hear all these elements that are happening around me right now, helicopters, cars, wind, that's kind of how life hits us sometimes, right? All at the same time and when we least expect it. I mean, before I started this recording, it was quiet here. And as soon as I hit record on these 15 takes I've tried to make, there's another car, another helicopter, another this, another that, some truck coming down the hill with bad brakes, like, but this is the take we're gonna keep. And all I know is that every time I get up in the morning, I get to do the thing I think I was put here to do. And I keep trying to take the takes. Every day, take time to make sense of this dream and this goal. And so I invite you that if you are having the opportunity to do something that you love, I just encourage you to keep pushing. Maybe some days will be longer than others. Maybe some nights will feel later than others, but I encourage you to keep on the journey. I keep you finding time for you, for rest, for rejuvenation. And so as we continue this podcast after episode 100, I invite you to keep a part of the journey with us. If you haven't made a mask yet, here's what the mask is. There's 3 steps. The front of the mask are the things that we gladly let the world see. The back of the mask are the things that we don't talk about. With 1 picture and 6 words, we believe we can change the world. But it's not just the mask. It's the connection and the community and the engagement and the showing up. And I hope that you will find ways to continue to show up for yourself, for your community, for your loved ones. I think our world needs that right now. Thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you soon. Be well. Listen, Jonathan, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ashanti. I'm excited to be here.
One of the things that we've been doing for the last, 20 minutes or so is trying to start this conversation, And I think what I was trying to tell you is that sometimes I try and just get on here and just be like, everything is all amazing and fine and all the technology is working out fine. But today it was not working. It was not going the way we planned. And I could easily just make a show where I'm just like, always like not like letting you a little bit behind the scenes. But if I'm going to be talking about this mask, I want to let you know that right now, like I was feeling a little stressed, like, I'm feeling a little anxious or like wanting to do a good job, wanting to show up not only professional, but like smooth. Right. And it was not smooth. This not smooth at all. Right. And so first of all, thank you for your patience with me and our technology on my end. And thank you for being a part of the show today.
Absolutely.
Well, look, today we're going to jump in. The way we start the show is always the guest tells us about them, what you want us to know about you. The bio is out there, but I want you to tell us what you want folks to know about you, because we're gonna take off our masks. We're gonna I've never met you before, besides in these small spaces, right?
Right.
On a screen, right?
Yep.
Like, and now we get to get to know each other. And I think that as an opportunity for a deeper connection than we probably had before,
I think actually the first time we met live. This is pre-pandemic. This is probably 7 years ago. You spoke to Prospect Sierra, and my kids were Prospect Sierra. And at the time, my son is fantastic, but at the time he was a burgeoning middle school boy, and so there was definitely masks were involved, shall we say? So I really identified with everything that you said, and I recognize the masks in myself, and so I sort of following you like a long time ago. I don't know that I was probably not brave enough to come up and introduce myself. You were bigger than life at that. I don't know. I don't remember that presentation, but you were amazing.
Oh,
moving, like tears, like it was incredible. So I'm glad to be on your show, man. I really am.
Well, thank you for being a part of the journey with us, and I appreciate it. I appreciate. I remember those workshops. I remember that parent night. Then we watched the documentary, if I remember right. Yeah, The Mask You Live In, and it's sometimes like pre-pandemic, my brain is trying to remember. Like I've done so many workshops in these little boxes. I'm like, was this in person? Was it like sometimes it's just hard to remember, like sometimes. So I'm really excited that, in this conversation, we get to go a little deeper, and I look forward to hearing, how that's 7 years ago. So he's out of high school by now.
No, he's still in high school. Yeah.
He's still in high school. Okay. So that was, okay. So that was middle. Okay. So he's toward the end, right? He's toward the end then.
Yep.
Oh man. Well, that's exciting, man. Well, how about you introduce yourself, and then you and I will jump into these masks.
Yeah. The conversation is so timely. Again, you introduced me. I'm Jonathan DeYoe. I've been a financial planner for 25 years. My big things I'm working on right now, and actually the thing that reconnected us was I saw you interviewed ESO Ventures.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Ben? Was it? No, it was Alfredo.
Right over, yeah.
Alfredo. And I've worked a little bit with Alfredo and with Ben, and I think the group is amazing. And I saw your interview, and it was fantastic. So that's what brought us back together. But the timeliness of this conversation is because I lost my brother last year, and so my the thing that has driven me for so long. I was raised without anything, so I would be damned if I wasn't going to be successful. Like I came out of the gate like, I am going to make money. I'm going to do really well. My kids were never going to starve. They're going to have every exposure, every opportunity that I didn't have. And then my brother never really kind of had that same thing. He was successful, but he was gentle and he was just sweet. And he was always late for everything and all kinds of things. So we had totally different character sets. We both got successful, and now I'm questioning all those things that I have been working on. And so part of the mass conversation, I'm sure, is gonna dip into that. But I've worked with money and investing and all that kind of stuff for the last 25 years. And the end of last year, after my brother died, I merged my firm into a larger firm to reduce my responsibility so I could go back and spend more time with my kids and, frankly, with his kids, who don't have a dad anymore. So uncle duty has become really important to me.
Thank you. And I'm definitely sure that some of those things are going to come up, and I see them on my mask already. And I think thinking about my brother as we speak and feeling like really worried is in that way. And so thank you for that. And just sending would you like to say your brother's name, just since you've already mentioned him?
Yeah, it's David DeYoe.
David, thank you. Well, I think we're already in it, and I appreciate you. And as an uncle, and as knowing that my uncle was a person who passed down a lot of responsibility to me. He told me I was the man of the house at 7. Like, there was no man there. He was like, you got to be the man of the house. You got to take care of your mom and your sister and your brother. And I didn't want that job. I was barely figuring out what it meant to be a little boy, but I love. It wasn't like he was like it wasn't like a negative, but it was like he had just bestowed some responsibility on me that I was not ready for. I didn't want, but I'm clear it's what has set me on this journey. And so from one nephew to who needed an uncle to see him in a way that I didn't know I needed to be seen, but he saw me. So thank you for the work that you're doing and about to do and will do for those. Well, folks, as you know, we this is how it works. We're going to jump right into the mask, and Jonathan, you get to decide who goes first. Do you want me to go first? Do you want to go first? And then as you decide who goes first, you'll decide the format. Like, you go front, and then I share front, or you go front back, and then I share front back. But whatever feels right for you, you get to choose.
I'll go first.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Welcome.
So you want me to just go front?
Yeah, just share the front and
you want to see it?
Yeah, we'd love to see it. We'd love to see it.
All right, I'm not an artist, so
that's amazing.
COVID, and during COVID, I turned 50 and I can't see anymore. So I got COVID with glasses. That's the deal. That's the front. In the things that I wear these like badges of honor, and this is one of the things I'm learning with my brother. We both worked really hard, but I was hustle culture. Like I worked hard, and I wanted everyone to know how hard I worked and how busy I was, and that's not healthy. That's what I'm learning. But that's what I want people to know is I show that I'm hardworking. I show that I'm smart. I show that I've got good habits. It's all about that success mantra. Jonathan's smart. Jonathan works hard. Jonathan's got good habits. That's 100%. That's my primary masks.
Thank you. Thank you. I was wondering why I drew this picture, and now I think after this past weekend's eclipse that I missed twice, it reminds me of a sun and a moon. Like, somehow I don't know where that came from, but the 3 words that I wrote on this one were funny, serious, and caring. And I normally write hardworking on this one. It's really odd. It's really interesting because normally hardworking just pops out even if I'm not thinking about it, but it didn't come up on this one. So funny, serious, and caring. And I think the serious, and then you can look at the face of that character, even though it's the sun and the moon, it's pretty to the point. Like, just, and I think as I think about this, as I think about wanting to be more funny and show more caring, but oftentimes serious is like primary. And what I'm clear about is that my facial expression, I get it from my dad. Where my lips are curved, like if I'm not purposely smiling, it probably looks like I'm angry. So if I'm gonna just try not to smile because I've practiced to always be smiling, right? So I'm gonna try, especially when I'm trying to turn it off, it's even harder. So you can't do it.
I love the so there's an ongoing joke in my house, and it's a joke that I am so serious all the time. And I've late night going to bed, my wife's next to me, and I'll say, I really wish I was more fun. Like I wish I was a more fun person. But then, I go to work and I put on the hardworking and I put on the good habits, and I that's 50 years of these things, and man, it's tough. It's tough to peel that off.
Yeah.
I don't have any fun. Like I think I'm fun. I can be funny sometimes, but it's not normal for me. Where my son, 17, who brought us together the first time, he's hilarious. Like he's funny all the time. Like I think it's awesome. But I don't get half the jokes. I'm serious. You get it. I can understand it.
Even better. It's like, yep, that's one. Imagine maybe even like how much of he is in you, or were like or in you, right? Or who were in you, like you were, and maybe the part of yourself that you had to like you didn't have time for. Maybe he gets to remind you of the little boy who made deep down wanted to tell some silly jokes, but was so serious, right? Who, like you said when you started, like I was dedicated to success. Like, so who has time to play games if you got a mission, if you're on mission driven, And I think that's for me, like the funny really wants to be, even though I don't draw it on the face, even though and even though I think I've made the mistake as a leader to also, because I want to be caring and I want to be sometimes funny, serious almost stays back. And so when I'm giving somebody some either corrective feedback, like I'm trying to be so nice about it that I'm not being very clear. Right. And so I've erred to the other side where I'm trying to, like where I've learned, I'm like, oh, I've spoken to you about this 3 or 4 times. Like, oh, well, I thought it was a suggestion. Kind of like they thought I was making a suggestion. And I was like, no, I'm pretty hot right now. Like I'm pretty, like the fact that I'm having to say this again almost makes me, but because I'm worried about how I look when I'm not. Like if I'm not smiling, this is it.
You don't look angry to me, but not happy.
Yeah. But imagine, I grew up in this city, Oakland. I grew up in this 6'1" frame. I'm always felt the need to disarm any thought that I'm trying to bring a threat.
Yeah.
Right. Even if it's my own community, if I'm on BART, if I'm walking downtown, like if I've always felt the pressure. Not no one said it to me. I felt it, like, oh, I better put on a smile so that I don't make anyone nervous. So I don't make it, dealing with, in my community, dealing with police, right? Like just trying to make sure. And even, it's like those feelings that are behind the scenes that don't get talked about, but on the outside, I just, hey. And every time I'm like, when I was a teacher, I remember students would do it all the time. I would be like, just thinking about something, not even thinking about emoting, but just like, you mad? I'm like, huh? It's like, oh, like you mad? I'm like, I'm having to be mad about right now. Right. But if I realize that if I'm not making it, then it's, and that's a interesting thing to be thinking about sometimes. Yeah. Behind the scenes play.
Yep. It's happening.
All right. Well, that's the front.
And this is the back is, so it's been a lot of work for me. I had my first panic attack. I don't, and actually it's all run together now. The last year's run together so much. It came, I think it came after Dave died. I'm not entirely sure of that, but I think it came after Dave died. And so I've always been anxious. I've always been the guy that's I'm thinking about, like, my kids were little, they're walking around, and I see that there's a corner of a table, and I see that they're heading towards the corner of the table, and I actually visualize the head hitting the corner of the table. Like I'm like, oh, gotta stop that, gotta go over there. And so that idea of just constant anxiety about every little thing, that's real, and that's being managed. That's, I'm talking to people, and I'm getting some support for that anxiety. I don't. I've only probably been open about it since Dave died, because I tried really hard to do it myself, to manage it myself. I came downstairs in the morning and cried for 3 hours by myself for a couple of weeks. And then I said, okay, I go upstairs, say, hey, I can't do this. When you wake up, come down and check on me, because I'm not in a good space.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And now it's like the second thing is, the fragility. I'm 6'5". I weigh probably 6'4" now. 6'4" probably. I weigh 225. I'm a big guy. I'm strong. I joke about strength, and I joke about it, but it's important to me. I am fragile. I heard a song by MGK. Just kind of had lunch with a friend, and I came back from lunch on the way to this interview, and a song by MGK called, it's either Alone or Loneliness or something like that, came on. He's talking about his girlfriend. What pops in my head? Dave pops in my head every time. And I just started crying, like, just total frag. Just a song hits me and boom, it's over. And so that's real. And then the third one is, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of all the good stuff that I built being taken away. I'm afraid of people leaving me. I'm afraid. Wow, this is not an easy conversation to have. You hold this space. You do this every week. Wow.
Thank you, brother. Well, I thank you. First of all, thank you. Thank you for allowing yourself to feel, for sharing about that mask. I resonate with a lot of what you just said, and I'm going to tell you about it in a second. I feel it too. So what I hope in these conversations we do is we normalize feelings, right? Like I grew up in a community, in a place where I didn't get to show a lot of my feelings. I got to bottle them up. Suck it up, Ashanti.
Yep.
Man up, Ashanti. Like be a man. Be a man. 7 years old. You're a 7-year-old man. That's what you are. And there's no space for showing anything else but like tough, strong all the time. And I think it wasn't until I became an adult that I learned how to let feelings show. And I was good at masking, like just be the funny guy, like, whatever. But deep down, I was struggling, and I was keeping it to myself, and I was bottling it up, and it wasn't healthy. And because I am a big guy, I can always, hide it behind food, and my food is my addiction. And I think I've talked about it on the show a few times, but I'm also knowing that it's trying to cover up all these things. And this past weekend, I was on a like, I think people, so this is what I know about people who talk about addictions. They think that food addiction is not real because they think that you should just stop eating. And I wish as a person who doesn't want to be addicted to food, and mostly it's sweets, mostly it's like sugary substances, I wish I could turn it off. I wish it didn't have a thing where it was calling me. And here's what I know about thinking about my brother. And I'm gonna show this, and then I'll tell you about what I'm talking about. This is the words I wrote. I wrote fear of failure, sadness, and I worry a lot. Fear of failure, sadness, and I worry a lot.
Yeah.
And the fear is probably more than just a failure. I'm afraid of not only being a failure, I'm afraid of like all this 18 years of building this nonprofit. And sometimes I'm just like we need to get like 3 steps ahead, 2 back, and we're just like it's moving, it's making progress, but all the time slower than I want it. It's so through all these things of like the fears that come up, and And when I was told to go to sadness, like my brother, I was speaking about my brother, I was the oldest, so I would help raise my siblings. My brother, who is he has mental health issues. He's a mental disability. He got incarcerated. He got out just like a week or 2 weeks ago. I dropped him off at a facility because he gets support because he needs to be kind of like independent living, but this place was just not the place. Like, and I had a gut moment where I walked in this place and I'm like, no, I can't leave him here. And then I was like, well, I know that if I take him to where I live in Oakland, like down the street, he knows exactly where to get all the substances that are in his lexicon of like what he wants to be doing. And I'm like, well, do I drop him in the like, and knowing that at my house, he's not safe because he will just walk out the door and just leave everything. Like he doesn't have a thoughtfulness about stuff. And so I'm like, do I leave him here at a place that I don't necessarily feel comfortable, or do I take him back to a place where do I take him? I don't want him on the streets. I don't. And so I had this moment of like worry, like, and so I said, you know what, let's go. I'm gonna go get you some new sheets. But like, I was almost irritated that the people who run this facility would think like I was mad. I was sad at the same time. I wanted to rage, but I know that what was raging going to do in that moment? It wasn't going to do nothing. What would even me calling some authorities and saying this place is not suitable to be lived in? Then what happens to all the other people living there? Right. Like so I felt like helpless. I felt worried. I was like, I took him. I said, well, let's go get you some groceries. And there was no refrigerator access in the building that he was in. And I was like, well, where can he put stuff, groceries, where, and I just was like, even when I was thinking about like leaving him there, I was like, I shouldn't leave. Like, anyway, it was, that's where I feel. So I kind of repeating myself, but I felt the confusion as I'm even replaying the day in my mind right now with you. Like, I love my brother. My brother, he annoys me sometimes. So I know how he may bother some stranger who doesn't love him. You know what I mean? Like, I love my brother, and he can drive me absolutely to a place where I'm like, Ashanti, how are you getting so upset? Like, he just he knows my buttons, right? And I worry about him a lot. And so I don't want anything to happen to him. And knowing that he's in his addiction right now, I saw him the other day. I was grabbing a burger somewhere, and he was not even facing me. It was sitting on this little brick thing. And I'm like, that's my brother. And I walked over, and he was not all there. He was on whatever he was on right at that moment. And I felt sad. I felt big brother. I felt upset. I felt like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why? And he was like, you want to buy me a milkshake? That's what he said to me. I'm like, man, I'll buy you some water, right? And we weren't having a brother conversation. We weren't. I was really, yeah. So I felt like that moment of just like helplessness. And so thank you for sharing about your brother. And I think I felt your heart, and I appreciate you for sharing that. And so, and then the worry, about work, like I run a nonprofit, right? There's a lot to get done, a lot to do, and a big vision and big dreams, and sometimes, a
lot of hats to wear,
and they're all over. So yeah, I'm complete with that.
There's one comment you made about your brother about the things he could drive you crazy, and I got to tell you, let him drive you crazy. I miss that.
Yeah. He's good at it. He's so good. He's so good at it.
He knows you better than anyone, so he knows the buttons.
He does. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I see you, brother. I see you. You know, I'm the youngest. My grandmother. I'm the oldest of my siblings, but I'm the youngest grandson from my father's side. So, my grandmother, 2 years ago, I lost her, and I when you started talking about your brother, I started thinking about my brother, but I was also thinking about losing my grandmother, and I just want you to know that what I want for men to have a space that we get to like let these emotions out. Like you talk about going downstairs and having a 3-hour session. I've had those moments, and sometimes it's hard to even try and describe it to someone, right? Like it's hard to describe it. It's hard to describe it. It's kind of like when I tell teenagers in their work, I'm like, look, when you have that first heartbreak, it's hard to describe it.
Yeah.
There's no band-aid for it. You can't. You almost have to just like allow me as a mentor or the friends or your brothers to like just hold space with you and just know that sometimes you got to feel it. And so I appreciate you because what you I think what you allow us to do is to know that we're human,
Yeah.
and we feel.
And that I have to. So I had this men's group conversation with 4 friends that knew Dave well, and this was like a month ago. So he died in June of last year, so it's almost a year.
Yeah.
But in this men's group, we sort of went around, and 2 of the guys in the group didn't have good relationships with their brothers, and so this was, I mean, this is a really sensitive thing. Jonathan just lost his brother. I'm going to tell Jonathan how envious I am of the obvious close relationship that he had with his brother. And so these 5 guys, sitting around, we're just chatting, and they say this, and in the moment, I don't really hear how lucky I was, right? I feel pain and loss and anguish and anger and all those things. But a week later, I pull one of them aside and say, hey, I realize I didn't respond like positively in that moment, but you're right. Like I had an incredible relationship with my brother. I don't know many people that have really tight relationships with their siblings. My kids are both pretty close, which is pretty cool. But when I see their friends, they're always taking pot shots at their brothers and sisters. And it's just, I never had that. Like we were close, and it was amazing. And so when he died, that first 2 weeks I come down alone, and I'd cry. And then I would go, I live pretty close to Tilden. So I'd walk through Tilden Park, and I just get up, everyone understands when you don't show up to work, right? Everyone gets it. So I didn't come in for like 3 weeks. And I went out and hiked through Tilden, and I would go at 6 a.m. when there's no one there. And I would go out into the wilderness and just scream. I would rage at the world. Partially because I had no idea what to do with those emotions. Like I lost my grandma, and she was important to me, and it was expected, and she was 94. So, it was reasonable lifetime. My brother was 45 and totally unexpected and drowned in the Pacific Ocean, and good swimmer, totally unnecessary. And what do you do with that anger, with that just, you got 2 kids that are going to go to school the next day. You can't, scream and carry on with them. You gotta, so I just took myself a bit out of the equation, found a place that was middle of the night. It was dark, really early in the morning, just screamed. Get out of the system, come back, cry. Next morning, screamed, come back, And I think what you're doing is important, because we don't know, we don't know what to do with these emotions. and we're trained to be tough it out, man up.
And I wonder if more, I mean, I appreciate you saying that, because that's one of the things that we talk to our about. It's like, and for myself and my own men's team, are you mentioned meeting with those group of men, those 4 men, are you on a men's team? Are you on a,
it's this is 4 guys. So I'm a total nerd. I played Dungeons and Dragons since I was a little guy, and I had, until my kids were born, I had a DM and I played Dungeons and Dragons. And these 4 guys and my brother and I played together before we had kids, like, so years ago. And they were, 3 of the 4 were out of town when we had his services. They couldn't come to the services, and so this is our little. We got together after the fact and just kind of remembered and enjoyed some food together, and and one of the group has kind of a men's group who runs men's groups, and so he kind of knows a system and a process for that, and so he kind of led us around the circle, what's up with you today, that around the thing. And so it was way more than I thought it was going to be. I didn't, it was just a bunch of guys having steaks one night, but it wasn't at all. It was this beautiful place where just incredible emotions were shared, and I've known these guys for 20 years. We've never done this before. Like, we've never shared these emotions. 20 years. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
We're closer now than we've ever been. How can you not be? It's amazing.
I mean, the some of the things that bring us connected, bring us together. And I think in that men's space, for those men who are available, there's a lots of other men's organizations out there. And I think one of the things since I started doing this work, like, I think since 2010, when I first joined the men's team I'm on now, I've been on this men's team for 12 years now. I tell people I'm sure I've cried more in the last 5 years since the documentary came out than I have in the previous 30 plus years. Right. But definitely when I joined this men's team, to see a space where to like let yourself feel is not only accepted, it's respected, and it's actually expected. And it's on a weekly basis. When you're ready, it's inspected. Because I think that if we make it more normal that we're human.
Yep.
We're in this body you're in, but we're human, and humans have pleasant and unpleasant emotions. And if we've been stuck to believe that I can only show out to the world all the pleasant things, and I'm supposed to, in my own somehow cave, navigate all the unpleasant things, it seems unreasonable. It is unreasonable.
A bit. Just a bit.
And some people love it. I personally, I learned it, and I did it really well for many, many years. And when I realized, wait, I wasn't even doing that for me. I was doing that so other people wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Right? I wanted to feel. I'm a big feeler. Yeah. And I realized I learned to shut it all off. And then I was imploding inside. It was like I told young people, they're like walking landmines, right? No one knows when they're going to be set off because they don't even know. But they're bottling all this stuff in, and taking in more. And all of a sudden somebody bumps into them. Somebody steps on their foot. Somebody looks at their partner wrong. Somebody looks at them side eye that they thought they were looking at side eye. And all of a sudden, boom. Yep. And I tell them, you have to like let that steam out in a safe way, because it's waiting. It's in there. It's not like it. You can tell yourself, I don't want to deal with it now. That's fine. I'm going to ignore it. Okay. But you still have noticed it, and you still are dealing with it. And so I appreciate you for speaking to that piece of like finding a place out in nature to just go and just, I go to the Albany, Berkeley, what is it called? Albany shoreline. I don't know how you call it. Berkeley, huh?
The Albany bulb.
Albany, is that what it's called? The bulb?
Yeah, the bulb, Albany bulb. Yeah.
Where the water is right there, right? There's like a little fire pit right there. There's like a little hiking trail. Yep. Like that is one of my spots to just go and just hear the ocean, see the bridge. You can see the Golden Gate Bridge right there from that view on a clear day. Yep. And just sometimes have to do some work,
Yeah.
So thank you.
Of course. I think it's so there's a ton of research on, and you probably know, just in your work, you probably know Brené Brown, and there's this concept of vulnerability that we are not taught.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because it's not that I wasn't taught it, or it wasn't modeled for me. My dad's 80 years old, and he's big, strong, tough guy, but he would also sit down and have a conversation with me about philosophy, or about, literature, and it was always hugs. When I see my mom and dad, it's always hugs. Like, we're big huggers. I'm a bigger hugger than almost anyone else I know. Like, I'll hug anybody, and I just love hugging people. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're sharing. I wasn't taught how to identify, and you are modeling for me today in this half an hour, naming the things, and I'm no good at it. I feel something. I don't know what that feeling is. Yeah. And talking about your brother and seeing him, you listed 4 or 5 or 6 things, and you're taught as a parent, you're taught how to teach your son and daughter how to name their feelings, so that if they name their feelings, they can understand them and deal with them. I don't remember ever learning how to name my feelings. Like, I know I have these very intense things going on. I don't know what to do with it all the time. Like, it's, we have these groups, if you got money, you can pay for therapy. If you don't have money, I don't know where do you go with these things? It's kind of, so what is this men's team you're talking about? What is it? It sounds like it's very organized.
Yeah, I've been on it for 10 years. I mean, it's the organization I'm on. So I've done lots of different men's weekends, right? There's these men's weekends. The team I'm on is an organization called MDI, Mentor, Discover, Inspire. I've done work with the Mankind Project, with Evryman, and just recently with Sacred Sons. And so I'll share these in the show notes for those out there. Since you're here in the Bay Area, I would love to invite you to one of our meetings. We meet Tuesday nights, 7 to 10 p.m. We've been meeting for 12 years. And, sometimes I come to the circle and I need the circle. And sometimes I get to be there to support men who are in need of the circle. We every week is different, right? But every week is, do I need something today? No, I don't really need. I'm good today, right? And we check in. Like, it's a space to just know that I got a space, at least a release valve every week, to go and have other men who have gone through similar things, who've gone through grief. When I lost my grandmother, I didn't want to go. I didn't go for 2 weeks, and a man reached out. I have a buddy. We have buddy calls. When he said, "Hey, where you been?" I was like, "Well, I'm busy with work." I'm always busy with work. It's not like a new thing. I'm busy with work, and I'm like, "Yeah, and sometimes I don't think I have the right to take up space, even though that's what I'm there for. Even though I've been there for 10 plus years, I know what it's there for. I will override my intuition with some kind of intellect and say, well, they don't have time for my stuff. And my buddy was like, you better be at the meeting this week, or we're coming to your house, right? Like, and I know he's right. I know they'll do it, right?
You need those guys. Yeah.
And I was trying to avoid it. Right? I was trying to do it by myself, and to just have a space with other men who have been through their own ways of processing grief, right? Their own not processing grief, right? Their own confusion of what am I feeling and how do I deal with this pain that I can't even put a bandage on, that I can't, how am I soothing this? Right. And I think it's been such a life-changing experience for me and for the work that we do in Ever Forward. I think when I got clearer I started Ever Forward in 2004. I didn't join this team to 2010. I didn't even know there was a thing for men. When I joined a fraternity in college, but they didn't talk about feelings. I don't think that I was in college 6 years. I was in the fraternity for 5 of them. I don't think we ever talked about feelings, ever.
That's the opposite of, that's the frat is not the feelings place. Yeah.
That was not feelings. Nobody talked about feelings.
Yeah. No.
And I realized, wait a minute, I've been looking for this, thinking that, okay, I get this brotherhood that we can, and then it was like, oh, we're just, okay. And we had, we did community service, we did parties, we did dressing up in paraphernalia. We were a part of something, but it was not a place for emotional release, well-being, or any of that. So I was like looking for it, but didn't know that it existed. And it wasn't until I started this Ever Forward Club and these young men were coming, I was making a space for them. I was building what I wish I had when I was their age, not even knowing that there was a place for me at this age. And I remember when you talked about anxiety, I found myself in Kaiser in the emergency room. The ambulance had to come to my classroom to pick me up because I was taking in all these young men's stuff. They were. I was making space for them. And I had no space for myself.
Space for yourself, yeah.
I didn't even know I didn't even know I needed it, and I also didn't know it existed. So even if I did know I needed it, I had nowhere to go take it. And so I was taking it. I was making space for them. They were finding a comfort space to open up and let it. And I was like, I got you. I got you. I got you. I got you. And I was carrying it. I was carrying all my own stuff and I was carrying theirs. And I learned and when they checked me out, they were like, nothing, we can't find anything. They did all these tests, nothing. And I started knowing I was not dealing with it. And that's when I got invited. 2010, I got invited to my first meeting. And I was like, oh my goodness. It was a wild experience. And I realized this is what I've been looking for.
Did you open up right away?
No, I mean, there were men who were doing it. When I saw it happening, I was like, I mean, literally, it was at Roberts Park, up above the baseball field, like in the trees. There's a big fire in the middle, like, and it's nighttime, and I'm just like, good thing I know I'm in Oakland because I don't know what's going on here. I never seen nothing like that before, and just to realize, I mean, it started off with men checking in, like men, like, I mean, from the good to the bad to the negative to whatever. Like, it was like, what? People are talking about their real stuff, like, and the rules of confidentiality. So, especially for men to take off their emotional mask and be in that space, and man, I felt it, and I was like, it was like I knew in that moment when I literally, that's what I've been looking for. And I've been a part ever since, and it's been a journey of me growing too, and so I just say that to you. Thank you for, whether you knew that you were bringing in, channeling that energy from nature, for going out in the woods and doing those walks and those, like, man, I think for so long, men have come together in a space where we can support each other. Men who knew. But there are men who don't even know that it exists. I was one who didn't know. And so anytime, it's not for everybody. Everyone doesn't want to be in a space where they can do that. But I know that I needed it at that time in my life, So, yeah, man, I'll share all those connections with you if you, in this next season, of process. And I really thank you for voicing it. Thank you for bringing it. Yeah. I know your son was in middle school when we had that first time, right? So now, how is he?
Well, I want to be respectful of his privacy as well.
Oh, well, maybe tell him I said hello. How about this? Tell him I said hello.
He's doing really well. I mean, he's doing really well. His academics are great. He's getting a captain the soccer team. He's doing really well. But he's prepping for what I think is probably going to be one of the biggest decisions of his life, because he's a musician. Okay. And he has an opportunity to go and just, he's raised with a dad like me, and his opportunity is he's going to have a boot camp in June. 5 boys are going to be selected out of 8 at the boot camp to be part of a boy band. Now, if he's successful, like, that's a path, and that's a path that's different from college and all the things that I, as a parent, would hope for him. It also takes him to LA and New York and Europe and places where he can't be underneath a watchful eye, and he's got to explore, and it's his life, and I get all that. But wow, that's, his his last couple of years, like all of our last couple of years, they were stuck at home. Like he hasn't had the social development that a teenager needs to like go off and launch into the world. And that scares the crap out of me. I mean, I am just terrified for him. He's a bit clueless because he's a 17-year-old, dude, but he'll find his way. I believe he's got a right head on his shoulders. He's, he's more like my dad than I am. He's not emotional. Like he doesn't share the feelings the way I do. But I'm always saying, hey man, what's going on? How you feeling? Checking in. It's going to be interesting.
Oh man. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I think, there's lots of dads out there who are probably experiencing the same, right? These like as much as we are doing our work to help our youngsters and finding ways for them to like, come on, let it out. There's a shirt we just designed and I want to share with you. Let's see if we can see it. I hope you can see it really well. When we talk about this idea of how you doing, that's what we know a lot of people say.
Yeah, yep.
Yep.
I'm fine.
But you look a little closer.
If my eyes were better, I could see that.
That's right. Well, inside the word fine is made up of all these other words.
Yeah, I see that.
The word, yeah. And
I can't read words.
Oh, no, it's good. And what we know is that when we say fine, like we have, and so what we've been doing with this shirt, we just got it. We just got the shirt like a week ago. We've been sharing it. And like this idea that people say I'm fine. I'm like, oh, okay. Which part of fine are you? Like, tell me a little bit more about it. Right. And if you're fine, you're fine. Cause it's not to say that fine doesn't mean fine, but how oftentimes does fine mean so many other things. Right. And I think, that's the great space. So congrats on his opportunity to experience a part of his talents in his world. And congratulations to you for all the hard work you did to get him ready for this moment,
It's all him. So, that one was him.
Right sure. on.
I said, do your math. He said, I want to play guitar. Okay.
Well, congrats on the opportunity and the journey, and then the math and the guitar. It's all connected. He probably was like, "Oh, this involves math right here." Somebody told me the music involves math, right? Well, listen, thank you. First of all, thank you, and I'm sending a heartfelt, brotherly love to you and for sharing your story with us, and I think this is opportunity for men, and like I said, you're welcome anytime to come to one of our meetings, and if you ever feel called any Tuesday evening, I'll get you the info. And thank you for being willing to share your story with us here. And for the men who are going to watch this and recognize they're also navigating all the things they're navigating, thank you for sharing some of the beautiful trails that they can go check out to in Tilden area. Tilden is a beautiful place, and thank you. And I look forward to meeting you one day at the Berkeley shoreline if that works out in time wise.
We'll go for a hike, man. Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. Is there any last words you want to say to men out there, to people out there, to the world out there before we close up here? Anything you want to leave?
The only thing I would say is that surprisingly, vulnerability brings us closer. It doesn't make you a victim. It doesn't make you weak. Vulnerability is a strength. Vulnerability is it's a way to create connection and be vulnerable. Get closer to people that you want to be closer to. You really do want to be close to people. You don't want to be a silo.
Thank you for being vulnerable here today, brother. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being the uncle. I feel that, and I appreciate you. Folks, thank you for being a part of the Taking Off the Mask podcast. If you want to make your mask, Jonathan and I shared our mask publicly, but you can do yours anonymously at 100kmasks.org. You can make a mask and share it. We have reached over 65,000 people who have made masks around the world, and we look forward to you being a part of this journey with us as well. So, Jonathan, to you, thank you for in this conversation, sharing your mask. I'm glad to know you more, and I look forward to this being the beginning of the next chapter of connection. And I appreciate you.
Appreciate you as well. Thank you.
The Taking Off the Mask podcast is produced by Ryan Louie. Graphics are by Kelly Wong, and a special thanks to the team at Ever Forward, Vanessa Cortez and Choque Allen Alvarez. We'd like to thank everyone who's been a part of the creation of this podcast as we cross the 100th episode milestone and begin the work to the next 100. We hope that everyone who's been a part knows that they're a part of the Taking Off the Mask family. And we look forward to you being a part of it as well. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe, write a 5-star review, and share, as we look forward to continuing to have conversations that matter. Stay tuned for the relaunch of the Million Mask Movement on 11/11/22. That's November 11th of 2022. There's a math problem in there. You can find out more by visiting everforwardclub.org and following us on social media. Take care, and we'll see you soon.